I would describe myself before I came to the youth home as definitely selfish, definitely more worried about me than anybody else, getting what I want, lying, cheating, stealing, I mean, the whole shebang. I was more concerned about me than anything else, so all those other things fall into place. You know, just not a very nice person.
I'd say that was pretty accurate, very selfish, manipulative to the point where he was using anybody and anything to get, like you said, what he wanted. Very violent.
Just very in his own world. There was nothing else besides Jacob. It was all about Jacob and what Jacob wanted, and nothing. He stepped on everyone and just basically tore everything down until he got what he wanted.
I think, too, he never looked at anybody. He always looked past them or through them. There was no eye contact. There was no, to be 14, 15, 16 and such a good, well-mannered outside of the house individual, there was no confidence in himself, in who he was, what he could be. There was no confidence at all.
Just empty and trying to fill it with everything that he could get a hold of.
There wasn't anything inside. You know, I keep referring to the fact there was nobody home, and there wasn't. You know, my daughter mentioned earlier that he couldn't look you in the eye, and he couldn't because there was nothing of substance inside of him. I mean, I know that sounds judgmental and probably overly critical, but we lived through this, and that's what it was. There was nothing there. None of the things that we thought were valuable as parents, or that we had you know, found through seeking guidance or assistance or anything. We couldn't get any of that through to him. He was empty. He was totally empty. You know, and you know, I know right, wrong, or indifferent. I put a lot of stock in values and in personal values and morality, and to me, you have integrity and you're honest and that's your character. That's your inner being. It didn't exist. It just didn't exist, and there was nothing we could do to put it in there, and we tried.
He was very angry, and very needy.
The changes I see in myself are, it's kind of hard to look back, but when I can look back at some of the instances or big moments where I got in trouble or stuff like that, there's a complete change of mindset for me. I look back at those things and it just doesn't make any sense because I don't think the same way. I can definitely say I'm not as concerned always about get what I want, because it doesn't really matter. You know, and I find more joy a lot of times now if I can give other people something or help other people out. And literally it's just, everything's different. I can't even describe it all, but everything is just, doesn't even seem the same to me.
I really can't remember a time other than we were actually sitting at this table behind us a couple of months ago talking about changes that we were going to have to make as a family. You said for the first time that I think I've ever heard you identified all of us as your family.
It's been a huge transformation between being this huge destructive force in everyone's lives. It was, how can we make sure Jacob's quiet so that nothing gets destroyed? There was no happy memories. It was all work around Jacob, and now there's a transition into an actual human being. He's a person with a spirit and a mind, and he wants to be in that. And there's that drive to say, I am part of this family. I am part of this world. I'm not just here to tear everyone down because that's all I know. He knows better. He knows the difference between right and wrong and what works for Jacob. And there's a transformation of actual knowing of how to make Jacob part of a normal, working, functioning society and family unit.
I see a smile, which until recently we had no pictures of Jacob in our house at all because the pictures were always awful. Now we have pictures around the house hanging because there's a smile. It's just a different person. Jake has found the Lord. To me, that's the basis of all of it. He's found the Lord, and he knows that he needs to please God. It's no longer about himself. That, God, there's so much to Jake. There's so much has changed. We don't know this young man. This boy coming home today is not even a child we know. When I dropped him off here at Paul Anderson Youth Home, after they decided to accept him, Kevin prayed. He thanked God for the gift that had been given him that day. And I remember thinking, wow, because I didn't see Jake as a gift. Jake is a gift today. And I'm so excited to get to know this boy.
Probably about a year ago, Jake came, was the youth home brought Jake to my father's funeral. And I think I heard somebody say earlier today that their eyes were sweating. Mine are doing that a little bit right now too. But he walked up to me and looked me in the eye. And it was, you know, if you're a dad, you don't know what that means when your son can't look you in the eye for so many years. And then finally he can. But I tell you what, even then, that was a year ago, I still didn't believe it. I wasn't convinced because I knew Jake was so manipulative and could play the game as good as anyone. And he's been here, that was a year and 2 months ago, and I can honestly tell you up until about 4 months ago, I still wasn't convinced. But he convinced me.
It's just a relief to have a family and have a brother instead of a tornado.
And you can tell when Jake walks into a room, he has a presence. He has a physical being there. Before, it was just darkness. He walked in, and you could tell, you could feel that there was nothing there. It was just an empty thing just in the room. And he can walk into a room now, and he has pride, and he has love and joy in his heart. I've never known him to have joy, deep down joy, and it does come from the people that have loved him.
I would say that advice to parents is the fact that you just never give up. And it's hard not to, and that's what I saw from my parents. You know, when I sobered up and got to a place where I was thinking was that they never ever gave up, even when I thought that they were too harsh or too easy or whatever. They never gave up, and that may mean like going past what you think normally would be the best, seeking advice by somebody else to see what you got to do to get kids somewhere, or if you got to get them to a place to where if you can't handle it, I guess sometimes you got to find a place, military school, or like I said, Paul Anderson Youth Home or whatever. But never give up. If you got to lay down the law and be stern, and do it, but you just can't be afraid of hurting their feelings when you're really trying to help them. Because I know my parents knew the best for me the whole time, but I didn't recognize that. But now I do. So, and parents usually do know the best for their kids. So I think that you need to stand by that, and that you need to never stop pushing for them to get to where they need to be. As their parents, you got to guide them, and I think that sometimes you might have to have an outside source to help you, counselor or whatever, just somebody that can something different, not out of the norm. But sometimes you just got to seek help, but just never give up and keep pushing what you know is right for your kids.